In February, Blizzard promised that Midnight's patching would be faster in terms of cycles, it wouldn't come at the cost of quality, with no shortcuts and no compromises, and then 7 weeks later, Blizzard pushed out 12.0.5 to live. And within 24 hours, they disabled housing entirely, broken one of the bosses in the final raid of the game, and accidentally turned their new hide-and-seek into a hunter wallhack. So, what actually went wrong here? And more importantly, is this just what WoW looks like now going forward? So, before we kick off here, I want to be really fair about this, and especially around 12.0.5, before we start tearing it apart. Because the patch was ambitious on paper, there's lingering shadows that gave us a lot, there's void assaults rotating through Eversong and Zulliman, and there's ritual sites for scalable solo to 5-player content, and there's the Void Forge for targeted gearing, a prop hunt minigame called Decor Duels, and a roguelike fishing mode called the Abyssal Anglers. And that's a lot for a 7-week turnaround. The problem here isn't ambition, it's that almost they had none of it working on launch day itself. Let's start off with some of the issues that happened. Let's start off with Decor Duels, because Decor Duels is the cleanest example of how this patch went wrong. The concept's pretty simple. It's your traditional prop hunt, you disguise yourself as a vase, someone tries to find you, and you switch and repeat. It's a pretty tried and tested genre that's existed for about 15 years, and it's a solved design problem as well, with it in World of Warcraft, with it in Call of Duty, and even a couple of games going back to Gmod itself. Now, Blizzard shipped this with 3 separate game-breaking issues. One, we had Track Humanoids. It's a hunter ability that we've all had since Classic WoW, and it was not disabled from the mode, and neither was the Blackened Warg Stake that grants the same effect. So if you queued against a hunter, they could see every single hider in the minimap through walls in a hide-and-seek game. The second one was hiders could exit the map. The invisible walls had gaps, and players found them pretty quickly within a few hours, and once you're out of bounds, you're uncatchable for that entire match. 3, and my favourite one, this mode punishes hiders who stay hidden for too long. It flags them as AFK and denied them rewards, so the better you are at hiding, the less likely you are to get paid for it. The one mechanic hide and seek asks for you is that you hide, and if you hide too well, you don't get rewards for winning the match. These are not subtle edge cases, these are some of the first things QA would have passed and brought up, and several of them were reported on the PTR weeks before the launch. And then the patch unfortunately got worse once you left the minigame. Luara, the final boss of Mquel'Danas, broke on every single difficulty level. Her final phase wants players standing in the rings of light to clear the stacking debuff. The rings weren't clearing the stacks properly, the fight wasn't unkillable in certain scenarios on raids that were the centerpiece of Midnight's launch season. Then the Void Forge bonus roll system sold as a bad luck protection. If you rolled an item, it should come out to the pool so your future rules had a better odds. It didn't, and players were pulling duplicates of the same loot slot, burning resource items that they'd already owned, and Blizzard only caught this because of a Reddit post going viral. The hotfix did go out on the same day, as well as the patch did, which tells you how fast they knew, and how badly they wanted the patch out the same door anyway. And then let's talk about housing. The feature Midnight was sold on, one of the pillars of the expansion feature, got disabled on North American servers for the best part of a day because of what Blizzard called a critical bug that would cause unacceptable errors for some players. They've never fully explained what this is, and it just went away for a while. And before we carry on going with this lessons learned, drop in the comments which one of these you actually hit during your playtime, whether it was the housing outage, the raid bugs, the decor deals, or the bonus roll duplicates. Or if there was something that you faced that I haven't really touched on, I definitely want to know how widespread this issue was outside of my own server, because some of the stuff I didn't genuinely know what was going on or a universal problem before I started researching this video, so drop it below. Beyond the headline problems that I had with this patch, some of the more trailing issues were some of the most damaging. Void incursions progress bars were vanishing, events were failing to trigger on certain phase layers, spontaneous disconnections for some players, class bugs for nearly every spec, Death Knights getting Commander of the Dead applied to themselves, Holy Paladins silently doing less damage than intended, and Preservation Evokers unable to store Dream Beam in stasis. To be honest, individually these are small, but collectively they tell you something about the whole testing pipeline currently going on with Blizzard. The Haranier clipping bugs in particular had been reported for weeks, some for months, and they shipped it anyway. And that's one of the pieces that would need to be called out here. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say brutally and honestly, it's a game. Nobody's going to die from a bad patch, mistakes happen, and they happen in every single game and every single piece of software that ships at this kind of scale. And I'm not trying to make the issue bigger than it is, because the reason I'm picking this up at the moment is because the pattern matters. And that's the main thing that's worth looking at. So I'm going to slow down because bugs are the only symptom that we've got going on, and it's not the root cause. World of Warcraft has been on an 8-week patch cadence since Dragonflight in 2022. That pace was a deliberate response to an old model where 6 months could pass with no new content coming in, and the community would tear itself apart out of sheer boredom, moving across to other games like Final Fantasy, RuneScape, and anything in between. The faster cycle worked. It was good for players and it was good for the game, and people liked it and started coming back. But 12.05 shipped 7 weeks after Midnight launch back in March, not 8, and that's even a tighter and already tight cadence than Blizzard committed to. And Blizzard sold Midnight as World of Warcraft's fastest expansion to expansion cycle they'd ever run. No shortcuts and no compromises. When you overlay stuff like this with the fact Blizzard was hit with multiple rounds of Microsoft layoffs over the last couple of years, the team is a lot smaller and the cycle is faster, and the scope is the same or even larger than before. And known bugs are making it live because there's so much that one person can do in a certain amount of time to catch them all. And that's the pattern here. It's not a 12.0.5 problem. In 11.1.5 within the Warfin, we had a version of this. Patches across the last years that had the same versions, Reddit threads full of players using words like undercooked, frantic, and demoralizing, and players openly saying the dreaded patch day is upon us. And this is actually where I want to talk to you directly, because I don't think this is a clean answer. If an 8-week cadence keeps landing patches in the same state, would you take a 12-week cycle with fewer bugs instead? Or is the pace itself worth the trade-off? And I'm actually genuinely curious here whether the community sits on which one. Because I've gone back and forth this week on myself, and realistically I would rather wait longer for less buggy patches than pushing for an 8-week cadence. Let me know your opinion in the comments. There is also a Reddit post that went right up after the patch went live, and the community's goodwill is not infinite, but it is real. That we notice when Blizzard ships cleanly and when it doesn't ship cleanly. And 12.0.5 isn't failing quietly. And this is the part that Blizzard needs to hear. The 8 weeks cadence Blizzard... And here's the part that Blizzard really needs to hear. The 8-week cadence buys Blizzard permission to ship things imperfect. Because there's another patch close behind it that would tighten the screws, or there's a hotfix that can come out a week later to sort out the big bad issues. And there's a genuine contract here with the player base, and the player base is happy to sign it, which is part of the issue. But this contract only works if what the base are being shipped is stable. Once players start associating patch day with subscription disconnections and broken raid bosses and hunter wall hacks, the cadence stops being a feature and it becomes evidence that the game is being pushed too far ahead. Oh, and one more thing. While all this was happening with the new patch, Blizzard announced their subscription price rise in the UK and a handful of other regions. Timing is everything with public relations, and that was one dangerous day to pick. So, I don't think the answer is slowing the cadence back down to the old model, because I think it'd be a step backwards and no one actually wants that length of delay between patches. The answer here is either more people testing it, or smaller patches, or realistically, a bit of both. What I'll be watching for the next 4 weeks is whether the hotfix cycle actually catches up and Blizzard can patch everything fast as they want to. The Void Forge duplicates land on a fix within hours, but reactive patching only works if new problems aren't arriving faster than old ones are getting sorted. It's something that we're going to have to check and watch over time. If 12.07 ships cleaner than 12.5, then we know this is a stumble. If it doesn't, we know we've got a systematic issue here, and Midnight's entire content cycle is going to be a little bumpy, so hold on. So yeah, that's my entire take on 12.05. One last thing before you go, I do want to know if you think 12.07 landing in 8 weeks will have the same issue as this patch did, or are you still going to be there for it? Are you still going to be subscribed? Or does it start pushing you towards Classic, or Final Fantasy, or RuneScape, or something entirely different altogether? drop in the comments because I would actually like to know your answer. And it'll be interesting to temperature check the player base and see what is actually happening with World of Warcraft right now. If this was useful, smash the subscribe button and let me know if you want a full run on the match in Quadranas and where Lurarius sits in Midnight's story. I'll work on the video and I'll get it sorted out from there. But till then, I will see you on the next video. Goodbye.